The sex, money, and profits.
Well, what do I use?
First
I use the
Amendment
word lust and greed. That's what I told the Moscow people. And it had to be translated to them, you know. Finally they applauded. I went over there on a film festival, showed 3 films, and they were really well received. 2 of them were. One was not. One that the head of the San Francisco Film Festival thought they'd love, but it was it's a depressing picture. It has to do with the depression in the 30s. The Russians had enough. They liked Super Vixens and Beyond the Valley of the Dolls.
We ready to go? Okay.
Okay.
We're dealing with, it seems to me, 2 extremes. On the one hand, we have the people who are picketing their local 7-Elevens against Playboy and the adult entertainment bookstores and what have you. I first wanted to ask you, Russ, what do you think about these people? I mean, you know, what they're doing, what are they like? You got an opinion on them?
The people that are picketing?
Picketing, protesting pornography shops.
Well, they draw attention to them, and the only thing I think that's negative about it is sometimes awakens the interest on the part of sting operations like with the FBI and so forth. I think the do-gooders finally got wise to how to deal with the so-called hardcore people, and that is to arrest them in as many areas as they possibly could simultaneously, which means then that the man who, shall I say, the hardcore producer then has to defend himself in more than one state, and he can't use one counsel. He's got to have a counsel in every state. It becomes a war of attrition. I think that's pretty sad. I don't. It's been years since I had any kind of hassles, and I'm basking in the glow of Mr. Keating, Mr. Charles Keating, formerly of the Citizens for Decent Literature. You know, his present circumstance with regards to the savings and loan thing. He was really an aggressive porn buster, as it were, in Cincinnati. And we defended my picture Vixen in 1969, which was a very straightforward picture. Received a lot of very good box office, things of that nature, but we made the mistake of going into his backyard. We were defeated in every court in the state. Fortunately, Justice Berger at the time would not accept Keating's wish that we go to the Supreme Court and get a definitive answer as to what is pornography. The Supreme Court has always have tried to kind of push it aside, not have to come up with some kind of definition which they can't seem to come up with. I think it's regrettable that people are denied the freedom of viewing and enjoying, just as others enjoy the freedom of worship. You know, I don't think anyone should be able to dictate to an adult what he can see. For that matter. You know.
What about the issue of hiding behind, as they put it, hiding behind the First Amendment in staying in business, in adult entertainment, free expression?
Well, in my experience, see, at this time and place, I don't have any difficulty with it. As I pointed out, this is back in 1969. That same old chestnut was brought to surface, and it's exactly what the First Amendment is about, is that it's freedom of expression and things of that nature. And the porn busters, the revelers, will do anything at all to try to deny others the right of seeing what they wish to see and what they can enjoy. Maybe they're terrified of their position. Maybe they're terrified that possibly they will be swept under, as it were, by this all-engulfing tide of evil and lust and degradation.
Well, it seems as if some of their following have. I mean, there's the Jim Bakkers and the Jimmy Swaggarts, and we can go on and on.
Yeah, I enjoy seeing Jessica Hahn. I think she handles herself pretty well. It's got a 900 number by People Meeting and so forth. And she looks attractive. I think she had a tenure at Hugh Hefner's mansion that did a lot for her. But I have a feeling that in the final analysis, freedom of expression will will survive. Look at this Mapplethorpe thing, where they were exonerated in the toughest city in this country, Cincinnati, Ohio. A bunch of German Catholic toughies that make up the backbone of the kind of people that really did represent Mr. Keating. It's such a nice thing to see Mr. Keating in a lot of grief. I must say, he put me through a ringer. He really put me through a ringer. I know I was doing a picture at Fox, Beyond the Valley of the Dolls, and at the same time we were defending, with the aid of a great attorney, Elmer Gertz, and it defended Leopold and Loeb and so forth. Every day I'd have a chamber of horrors message from my lawyer: burn all the pictures, get rid of the posters, they appeal to the prurient interest. And I was concerned. This man Keating wanted to get me into the Iron Hotel, as it were, but fortunately I was spared that.
And that's another big question that people are thinking. They see Russ Meyer today and they're going, how has he survived King of the Nudies? What is your formula? How have you survived? And you've done very well.
I don't know the answer, really, except that...
Survive the porn busters, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, well, they just took one real solid whack at me and then kind of walked away because they couldn't put me in the tank. Yeah, survived it fine. And then also at the time when I was most sorely beleaguered, I was working at 20th Century Fox, a very respectable organization. They were always writing. I have in my book letters from Citizens for Decent Literature, kind of putting Zanuck down for giving me a shot at that and bringing the studio to its knees. You know, its mouth should be washed out, all these kind of things. I've survived, I suppose, because of the various nature of my films. The best thing I could liken them to is being cartoons. I was influenced by Al Cap to a large degree in my early years.
Comedies, then?
Well, satires, although the next film I hope to make will be a comedy. Most of them, the others, have been kind of satirical more than anything else.
You wouldn't classify your works in any way, shape, or form as pornography?
Well, it depends on how you pronounce. You see, if you say pornography, that's the way the porn buster says it, porno. You know, they make a big thing out of it. But if it's porno, it can be a very light thing. It offers entertainment. If someone chooses to make reference to my material as being porno, let them take their best shot. So it's not going to disturb me. I like the idea that I'm being accepted as being an original, unique. The fact that the films increase in interest as years go by. The fact, for example, now let's see.
I thought that your films have endured and have become more popular.
Oh, I was talking about German television, for example. I have now 10 films playing during the family hour in Germany. No cuts. I'm very strict about this. You may not cut my films. I made some mistakes early in the game. For example, in Britain has the worst censorship in the world, you know, really dreadful censorship. These are played at a time when young Hans, who's 5 years old, is eating his noodles or his Wurst, you know, sausage, and no violence. Their pictures didn't have any violence in them. They're uptight about violence. The sex is all right, not hardcore, you can't have that sort of thing, but I'm talking about my kind of ribaldry.
All right, but how about this country? We're more uptight about sex, aren't we, than violence? Can you expound on that a little bit? I mean, what are your views on that? Do you think that's hypocritical? Do you think it's...
Well, I like the sex to be kind of special. I like that business of saying, you know, that's obscene, that's evil. It generates interest. I like those people that get out and become militant about my stuff. I did at the time, you know, I enjoyed that. Hell, if they hadn't condemned it, who would have cared, you know, really? It's better to keep stirring up the pot a little bit. Where it's tough is, as I pointed out earlier, economically, they're going against people that can ill afford to defend themselves in lots of courts of law, you know, under many different jurisdictions now. I'm sure a lot of your readership will say, well, good for them, I'm glad we're going to finally get them. But there doesn't seem to be any kind of case history that relates so-called pornography to crime, or where people have been you know, used and abused, things like that. And most everybody that works in the so-called hardcore films, and I know a number of producers that make them, they're happy to do it. They enjoy it, they make good money, and they feel they're offering a service.
That's continually what I hear over and over, whether they're the adult entertainment shop owners. They're saying we fill a service, we fulfill a need.
Absolutely. I think that's more important than anything else. The service is to entertain, for that matter. You know, there are a lot of people that fantasize about having a relationship with some outrageously abundant lady, but because of their background or the financial aspect of the way they live, or just the wherewithal, the knowledge how to hit on someone properly, for example, it doesn't come. But they can in their cubicle, in their room, or wherever it is. They can enjoy themselves and fantasize. What's wrong with that?
Russ, how did you become so uninhibited? I mean, you know, as I said, the hypocrisy in this country is that we're uptight about these things, and you have made a living, and a good living.
Oh, I made a great living. I made an enormous living, simply because the films refuse to die. They go. They just go and go. I mean, Finland's playing them now on television. France soon will do. Italy's anxious. I go to a lot of film festivals. I keep the same film boiling in the pot.
But this country...
And another generation looks upon these films. I was just over at Rimini off the Adriatic coast in Italy and showed 12 films. Every night was packed. Now, these people had never heard of me before, but there's some kind of a current that takes place, and they hear about it in some way. And those people sit there, and of course they had a translation system there, so that people had made cassette tapes that would have translated what the people are saying in my films. It's great to be so warmly, you know, accepted by a totally foreign, audience. Yeah.
And this country, how are you revered, if at all?
Well, a man followed me out of a hardware store today, and he says, "You're Russ Meyer. I understand you're making a book, writing a book." He says, "When is it going to be ready? I understand it's going to cost $138.50. I said, "Yeah, it's going to be 18 pounds in weight. It'll be 3 volumes, printed on 150-pound stock, and 2,400 outrageously abundant photographs." He said, "I must have that." See? Now that's it. People recognize me. If I'm walking down a street in Bremen or Hamburg, "Hey, Russ," they know me. And God, it's flattering. Oh. And again, having films that you've made and you realize that they're being there's still great interest, in some instances growing interest. Yeah. It's like something, an ex-partner of mine who was my partner on the Enormous T says, "Mail order, it works while you sleep." And it's the same thing, you know. You got it out there. People are renting cassettes, buying cassettes. We just shipped off to Burma 20 cassettes to a man.
So you're saying the appetite is there. But again,
enormous.